Hey, what is up, my Deliverance insiders? This is Andrew Lowen here talking just off the cuff about some stuff that I feel like is pretty dang important to share with you, and just some inner thoughts that need to come out. And I figured the best way to do it is just by talking to my camera and sharing whatever is actually on my heart that bubbles up into my mind. So the subject of the conversation is going to be related to what I perceive as a very important way to deliver quality to you guys. So that's something we take really, really seriously. It is most important to me to deliver a high quality product to you that is good in both, the tactile experience as well as the gameplay experience. And so that, everything that we do is directed toward, excellence there. Now, the philosophy would be more, if you're familiar with video games, a Blizzard style message of when is this going to be delivered? Soon, with a little TM right next to it. Meaning that Blizzard never had a really solid release date for any of their products, but you knew generally when they were going to be released, but they would always delay if they needed to in order to make sure that the last bits of polish were there and all of that. Contrast that with EA Sports, which releases games. Their philosophy is more like release now, patch later. So they have big errors, big issues in their games, and those games get patched in the future. So they have to release the Madden 2025 game in 2024. They've got to release the Madden 2026 game in 2025 and that kind of thing. It just doesn't make sense for them to hold back, right? They have to release now and patch the biggest issues later, right? So I don't want to have that kind of philosophy. As a gamer, I much prefer excellence and polish. And now the thing with board games is that it's much more important to polish because it's really difficult to make changes later. You can't just patch. In fact, actually, one of our core philosophies is that we do patch our games. And in our update pack for Deliverance, we've got new talents and update, fixes to talents that didn't really need fixes. They were more like, I wanted to improve them so that they were valid options. I feel like they're brand new skills that are worthwhile to choose over the other talents at that same level for each of the angels that we're changing, and that players would just be delighted about that. So also we can fix things that are clearly overpowered. For example, Azrael's Final Plague. That skill is so strong. It scales so beautifully well. And so we put, we didn't totally nerf the skill into Oblivion, just so you guys know, but certain things need to be brought in line to allow for the other types of builds to really thrive. If you can just press one button and deal 95 damage to something, then there's no other button that matters, right? So we need to bring certain things in line with your with your other options. And so, overall, I think we did a really great job with the first edition of Deliverance, but it really needed to have some love to just ensure that each of the characters had felt like they had multiple valid end game builds and other things like that. So there are a lot of you listening to this that may not even have played Deliverance yet, and you guys will get to experience it and understand it. But to kind of preface the next section, Deliverance is a game that we tested it about 2,000 times. I played 2,000 games, of which I played at least over 1,000 myself in before we actually delivered to backers. It had really excellent results. We're currently rated, I think, like an 8.5 on Board Game Geek, which is really high. It's really, it's the highest rated religious game on the Board Game Geek website. So it doesn't have the most ratings yet. But it's actually all the people that have rated the game have rated it, and it gets the highest rating. So it's at the top of the list there. And I think that's because we took it so seriously. Like the game needed to be high quality. And so for the expansion, our mentality is much the same. So we have Thankfully, many more, we have like full-time people that are working with me on this, with Adam, Chaz, and Dan Maynard. And the amount of work that we're able to produce is so much higher thanks to your generosity and support. We've been able to really move a lot faster, and we have more experience, and we know generally what we want and other things like that. So all of our content is generally has been designed and is being refined and polished now. So this is kind of the crux of this particular segment, is when should we begin manufacturing? So the original intent is, so it's May 30th when I'm recording this video. You'll get it probably tonight or tomorrow, the 30th or 31st of May. And the planned manufacturing beginning is July 1st. So we need, in order to effectively manufacture, you are going to go July, August, and then it's going to begin shipping in September. Then we're going to need September, October, and then it will begin delivering, in fulfillment centers, will begin delivering in November. And that's like to people's houses. So between November and December, everybody gets their games. And my team is pretty confident that they can actually make that deadline. So it is, so I want you guys to know that first. And you can see, like, based on my timelines that I just gave you, if we begin delivering in November, we were able last time to deliver about, I want to say 4,000 packages around the world in 3 weeks. For the most part, there was an issue with the European Union, which we're going to solve. It won't. We shouldn't have that issue this time around. But the overall, the delivery happened really quickly. So in theory, we do have about 1 month more of wiggle room that I really don't want to use, because there are going to be things that go wrong, things that go wrong in manufacturing, or things that take longer in manufacturing. Like, for example, I was all excited to receive miniatures and ended up receiving miniatures that were just not good. Like, for example, here's Raudbjorn. In fact, let me switch. I want to make sure that I can see myself. I don't look at myself when I talk. I just talk into the mic. And then, so here's Raudbjorn. The quality of these is here. Let me actually get in here, see if the camera will zoom, and come on. Okay. So this is like, the gray mini is the old version, and the white mini is actually a high quality 3D printed version of the new one that I was sent by Longpack. You can see how small, it's focusing on my face again. You can see how small that gray one is compared to the white one. The white one is the correct size. So looking at a miniature from our classic campaign, Azrael, the Angel of Death, these guys are very comparable in size. And sorry, just making sure you have a solid look. So this is Raudbjorn, needed to be improved. It gets a little more extreme when you look at the the version of Nezzy that I received. Look at little Nezzy. This is the gray version of Nezzy. This is the actual size that he should be. I know it's not very good. Here, let me try to do this again with the camera. Here, let me put it in front of my face. I don't know. All right. So you guys can see the size difference of one mini compared to the other. It's pretty dang extreme. And this gray side is what China sent me. And it just wasn't very good. It was like, I cannot print. I cannot send this to people. It's not going to be good at all. Now, I'll show you the next one, which is kind of the most extreme difference. First of all, just look at the base of these two minis. In fact, I'm going to turn them around so you can see the size of the base is like dramatically different. If we look at the size of the base, it's like one can like entirely fit inside another. This gray one was the original Prowling Nezzy that China sent me. It's pretty nice looking. It's just tiny. Now the white, this is not the finished color or whatever. We're going to have gray. The minis are going to be gray, but like you can see the size of these minis was just so dramatically different. And these white versions we received within the last day. So they just arrived. So look at the difference between these two, you know? Now kiss. So I wanted I wanted to show you guys some of the changes that we've actively been making. We want to make sure that the product is right. I have gone through probably, $1,500 in additional manufacturing costs from just the molding fees. I don't want to have the miniatures be underwhelming in any way. One other thing I'll show you guys just as far as quality. So we have Damascus, which is pretty awesome. The old Damascus was good as well. But if you look at the angles, let me show you the angle of this Damascus. Just look at like the angle of his feet. Trying to make this happen on the camera. He's really angled like downward. He's really angled downward. So look at the version in white. So like his wing is down, and let me see if I can get them to show properly. Here, I'll send them at the right, both at the same angles, so that you can see. Look at the. I wonder, how do I show this properly to the camera? Okay. So looking at the angle they are to the ground, one Damascus looks like he's leaning so far forward. The gray version was leaning so far forward, and I don't know how easily this is for you to see, but the gray version leaning so far forward was balanced. They made that change so that it was balanced at my request, but it just didn't look good. It just wasn't standing properly. The wing right here is so low to the ground. It just wouldn't have fit under. It wouldn't have fit over the barriers that we made, and it would have been a pain. So we changed that to make sure that Damascus would stand correctly and also at the same time remain balanced. And so he did. It just looks. It's such a big difference. It looks so nice compared to before. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that the game is ready to manufacture on time. My concern is actually not. I mean, everyone wants to polish. Everybody knows that it's very. We're on a tight deadline, and we need to get this done. The team does believe they can do it. We've got the campaign. We've got most of the missions drafted out and we're testing them. We've got the story, which we've been writing, and I'll come back to that in a story in a little bit. I wanted to share about that. And we have all of our content, all the content in the game, the actual like angels and their talents and that kind of thing have been designed, are currently being tested, and we're having excellent results with all of them. We have all of our player talents that have been designed. Meaning the additional talents for the base game angels. We've designed all of them at this point and are kind of refining them. We want to present them to you guys. More on that later as well. But so I have to talk about story and talents as the kind of the last two things. In fact, I'm going to write a note. Story and talents. I don't want to forget those two things. I'm just talking off the cuff here. So I want to keep focused on the point. So I want to tell a story that is going to kind of illustrate the point that I'm trying to make. We're doing our best. We're doing our best to make the delivery on time. But so I have some thoughts that were illustrated in a response that I gave to one of my developers. So it's actually a developer that is working on a Deliverance video game, and we were planning on starting this project. So we started, and then we paused, and we're working through all sorts of things related to the design of this. But the major development, when they focus full time on the Deliverance game, is coming. And originally we were going to start in like March, and then we pushed back to like June and or May. I'm sorry. And now it's the end of May, and they just gave me a message that they felt so bad. They were, because they have another video game they wanted to design first so that they have the experience, because it's a brand new game studio, and they wanted to make sure that they've been through the process once, and so they released another game to make sure that it would that they had familiarity with the process, and now the game needs a lot of polish, and they're kind of at the stage with that game as I am with Deliverance, Council of the Fallen. And so they were like, I could technically still hit the deadline that we gave for completion of this game, but the game as it stands would be missing that extra level of polish and attention that could really elevate the experience. It wouldn't reflect the full potential of what it could be. And so he kind of shared more about this and was like, the best way to release this is basically to push the work all the way through until September. And it was like, there are a lot of ways that I could respond, but, anybody that works for me, I support them as a human, making sure that, ideally I want people that can work hard for me that are not distracted by other things. So, if this project is looming in the back of his mind, he's not going to be able to do the best he possibly can on this next project, right? And so I want to support him finishing what needs to be finished, right? But then, as a gamer, I want excellence. I much prefer the Blizzard style of releasing a product when it's ready than the EA Sports, release now and just, get the cash cow rolling. And I don't like treating you guys like, you're not just buying something that is a commodity. This is like, this means a lot more to me than just a product I'm going to make money from. And I believe it means more to you guys than just some product you might play a couple of times and then move on to the next thing. This really is going to be an awesome, amazing game that deserves that level of polish. And so as I shared my response to him, I almost felt like I was talking to myself. So I want to read my response and, just a section of my response. Okay. So as a fellow creator wrestling with the same sort of problem, I've learned that if not for the pressure cooker final moments, nothing would ever get truly polished. And this is so true. And now as a business owner, I recommended to him, release your product when it's ready. Break your invisible deadlines rather than your players' hearts. And finally, as a marketer, my advice is to release during the most profitable time for him, and so, I feel like, so it's my intent so the whole, I guess the point of what all of this that I've been saying, and I appreciate you guys for just watching this and taking the time, is that I want to be open to delaying the project if the delay would result in additional polish, in that additional polish the game really needs. And I let my team know that, hey, we may delay this product a little bit longer, just so that we can get that extra level of polish, because everybody's on, full steam ahead, working really hard. And I want to make sure that when the product lands, that it was worth all the time waiting. Now, the reason that I have this like invisible deadline for myself is because my promised, the Kickstarter promised delivery date was Christmas of this year. And we're currently on track to meet that deadline. But if we push and meet the deadline and deliver a product that could have been 20% better if I delayed for a month or what, 2 months, is it really better that I make sure that everyone has a Christmas present under their tree? Or is it better that I deliver the best version of the product? And I'm seriously interested in what you guys have to say about this. I know that in the past, we've had a lot of support for the release the game when it's ready type philosophy. I do believe that if this were a game that you could buy in 2 days and you were expecting, you guys backed this project in September of 2024. And I'm pretty sure that, it would be nice if we could release it during the Christmas season so you could get the product and, for Christmas, and we still might be able to. But I don't think that you guys backed the project with the intent that it would be here 2 Christmases later, by that Christmas and whatnot. And I think that you guys are more interested in making sure that the product is good, that everything you paid for delights you. And that's kind of been based on like the first campaign and the number of delays we had and so on, releasing that thing. I'm much more in tune with what I believe my community really wants. With you guys as my community, you really want high quality. And so I care very much about what it is that you guys have to say on this, and would love to know if we have additional wiggle room, if it doesn't end up getting released and delivered to you by Christmas, if that's fine or not. I know that a lot of people were, would be excited if it was delivered by Christmas, but I want to know that, so if you guys have an opinion, please share that in this video or in our Kickstarter comments, or in our Facebook or Discord communities. And so I'm going to move on now. Let's talk about story. So the story, originally we had, we recognized the need for a revamp in our story. And we have a revamp of the original story with a little bit of customization. By the way, the final 2 missions are going to be chef's kiss. Awesome. They are really exciting compared to even the first campaign. So if you've played through the first campaign, I encourage you to play through the last 2 missions again. And if you haven't yet played through the campaign, you're going to be delighted. The whole thing is great. We did amend the campaign so that 5 players can play through every mission, but for the most part, there were no dramatic changes made other than to the final 2 missions. And I really felt like they needed to like be elevated. There were a lot of people that were defeated on the final mission, but I just felt like the experience still deserved, now that we really have learned how to use all the tools at our disposal, the campaign book, the prince cards, the talent cards, like everything. And we've learned how, lieutenants in the campaign. And, so we've really managed to level up that experience. And I'm really excited for you guys to experience that. So the story in the main game, it's not going to be totally like shredded and reformulated. We are going to improve it, though. We do have areas that in particular we want to expand the story, because that's one thing you guys have made clear. The backers of the first campaign, they really enjoyed the story, but they felt like the greatest amount of improvement possible in the game was in the story. So really in it, what it came down to is like, we only had a certain amount of space in the first campaign book to give story. So there were certain things that deserved more context, more exploration, like what's happening in the lives of the humans around you that are, and so people really wanted more of a connection there, and we're delivering that. But then in the new campaign, we, the same, we have the same kind of directive. We want to make an excellent story, and we're working on that. Which of course you get the prequel story if you want. I'll make sure to include a link to that. We shared the prologue of the expansion, which is pretty exciting and very well written, and it makes me excited. So originally we had an author that we brought in that did A Pilgrim's Progress Reloaded, and David Umstadt. And I actually recently this month, I took back the story to in-house. So Adam Glass in-house is, he's working on our story alongside me. I've embraced the need to write, to be heavily involved in the story. David was actually a very, very good writer, but his style was just too dynamically different than what I needed. And so I felt like I had to change too much. And the way that kind of we look at, I think the spiritual, supernatural realm is maybe similar, but the writing style, he has more of very much like a Stephen King, be brief and say what you want to say and no more type writing style, where I think it's really, really important to give as much detail about this world and what's going on as possible. And so it's just a philosophical difference, I think, in the approach that my vision is to show you guys what is happening in this world. And I feel like it's more of I want more detail in there and more of what's happening. And so it just didn't feel like it was a great fit in the end. So Adam he has been working on this project since 2018, and he has a much clearer understanding of what I'm looking to do. And he's been writing a lot in the past. And earlier this month, he asked, like, can I get involved in the story? And his writing style is much more of, I would say, like a discovery writing style. So we start writing, and then we'll see, like, for example, one of the things we're talking about is romantic interest, if there's going to be a romantic interest in the story or not. And I'm like, I don't want a romantic interest in the story. It's about the angels and this and that. And then Adam said, well, let's just see and let's write and let's discover if there is a romantic interest or not in the way that we write, if it's a fit or not. And that is actually something that I was really excited about. I was like, that is exactly the way that I write. I learned over the course of the last year or two that I'm a discovery writer. I will write, and then things will pop into my head. I'm like, oh, what if there was a I don't want to spoil anything, but and it was like, okay, let's do that. And I'm still thinking, like, I don't need like a romantic interest arc happening in the story to make it interesting, but the discovery is super cool. So anyway, Adam and I are writing the story, and we'll have it edited by people as well. I'm going to ask Ian Tyrell, the same one that co-authored the first story with me. He'll be editing if he's willing. Wesley Cohn as well, who has a great mind for writing, has done what is it called? What is Wesley Cohn's work called? I have his games somewhere in his books, but I'm looking and not finding them. Here's his products. I've got his products here. I'm like looking at, the world is tempo, but I can't remember what is it called? Anyway, sorry, Wesley. I'll make sure to include a link to your project in this below. Mirror Pursuit. That's what it is. That's the project's title. So, anyway, there are a couple of people that just have very discerning eyes that are gonna help us edit the story and make it awesome. And I'm really excited. We have right now the first 8 missions written. We've got the whole thing storyboarded. We've got we have probably what it looks like between 16 and 18 missions that you're going to be playing. And this, let me go back to kind of the first digression of, not digression, but the first point of the story and the deadline and everything. This is where it kind of gets, combines. For me, I'm thinking as we're developing this campaign, we're really fleshing out the campaign missions. All the bosses are generally in some state of polish. They're done and, air quote, done and being tested and whatnot. We're rolling them out to our internal and external playtesting teams. And I'm thinking like 16 to 18 missions. We have, let's say, half of them done. The other half, to get 8 missions done in 4 to 5 weeks, which is what we have, about 30 days. That just seems like not enough time to provide the true level of polish required. And maybe what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to start manufacturing the Deliverance board game, the original Deliverance board game. We'll be able to manufacture like the add-ons and that kind of thing, and then do the Deliverance campaign book, the expansion campaign book last. Maybe like the scenario book, campaign book, like we do those two last, and maybe there's no impact on the manufacturing timeline, but maybe there is. So I am closely monitoring what's going on, seeing what we can do, how much wiggle room we have without delaying the timeline. but I really want to get this campaign polished. It needs to be an excellent experience. So that being said, the last thing I wanted to talk about are angel talents. So we're not only are we upgrading and revamping some of the existing angel talents from the base game, we are also going to be adding brand new talents to the angel base game that will give them, or to the base game angels, that will give them new types of functionality that will make them function, maybe with some of the expansion content. So, for example, Azrael, the angel of death, he loves afflictions and whatnot. Giving him access to blight as like a regular thing, to add blight to enemies and to explode blight, it's such a fun thing. Or gloom, the like a heal cut, where you can reduce the amount that your opponents are healing. That is a very powerful skill, and giving Azrael access to that just makes his gameplay so much more dynamic and interesting. Makes you want to press that Locust Swarm button more often, I'll tell you what, based on the talents. So each one of our angels, our base game angels, there are 10 of them, meaning 9 playable angels plus the solo intercessor. We're giving an additional level 1, level 2, and a level 3 talent to each of them. We have had an angel talent design contest that our community has put together. There are like well over 180 entries in this. It is incredible. Just the number of talents that you guys have implemented. I'm looking at them right now. I'm trying to see how many we actually have. Gosh, this is incredible. We have actually 201 talents. I'm sorry, 200 talents. Incredible. 200 talents divided by 10 angels. I mean, roughly 20 talents an angel, right? For if you're counting the intercessor. And it is just an incredible amount of work that you guys have put in, an incredible amount of thought. We have originally, we decided, what we wanted to do is we wanted to make it fun for the community. There are a lot of players who put a ton of time into Deliverance, and we wanted to honor that by saying, now that you guys understand, a lot of people have their favorite angels that have played them a bunch. Now that you guys understand the way that these angels work, what do you wish these angels could do? And what we originally wanted to do is design like 2 talents for each level. So 2 level 1s, 2 level 2s, 2 level 3s for Azrael. And it's the same for Gabriel and the same for etc. But what I find is that it seems like each angel has a really cool build path that we can develop. If we create a level 1, 2, and 3 that makes sense, that kind of work together, but also more than work together, enable certain build paths that were already there. For example, a level 3, we consider the finisher, like you need a cool finishing move or finishing talent to kind of, or the capstone of your build, like Azrael's final plague. You can do all sorts of things that allow you to survive and whatnot, so that, or maybe build courage so that you can unleash the final plague as many times as possible on your enemies. And it feels really good because of that last ability, that last final plague skill. Or another great example for Azrael is Grim Reaper, where you have a bunch of afflictions on your enemies that you stack with your abilities. And so you've got Wither on them, Cursed on them, and etc. And you can then, with Grim Reaper, deal extra damage based on the number of afflictions on your opponent. And that feels really good as well. It feels really strong, which is only going to feel stronger with more afflictions, by the way. But I wanted to really enable the build. Like the Grim Reaper build felt like you could really only get like 2 additional damage per hit. Reap costs an action. You can only use it twice on your turn. How can we make it so that you really feel like stacking afflictions on your opponent has like a very high payoff if you invest into that build? And so we've really thought about what generators, what builders, kind of we'll say, in level 1 and 2 do we need in order to make that final plague, or I'm sorry, that Grim Reaper skill really, really good. And so we've kind of transformed a little bit from doing a contest that you guys vote on which one you like best, to you guys submitted a lot of really excellent ideas, and we're learning too. Like as we design for this, it feels like we're kind of sliding into more of a we add a level 1, 2, and 3 that enable the builds that you guys are asking for. So by creating 3 additional talents, we're managing to satisfy many of your requests. And in addition to that, any talent that so what we've decided, there were many of you that optionally, I'm looking at the spreadsheet right now, that asked, in fact, you know what, I can share this spreadsheet. Let me share this spreadsheet with you guys for those of you that are watching. Here we go. Okay, so we've got for our various characters, our talents begin on line 2 and end all the way down at 201. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So Uriel is the final, on line 201. So we have literally 200 skills. And so let me pull back up here to the top and look at this. So we've outlined in green various skills that were like, yeah, that's really, really good. We want to consider things like that. And, if there were people that gave us ideas where we're like, hey, maybe we can use this for, or other things, maybe, other multiple people are requesting the same thing. We added different ideas, but upgrade to Reap that allows it to hit an additional target. Maybe as a level 2 would be cool because that allow for a build with level 1 Roguelike and level 3 Grim Reaper. So this Grim Reaper, there are people that really want this to be awesome. And everybody knows that, that plays the Grim Reaper build, that Reap, which is your courage generator, your combo builder, if you will, like the thing that your basic attack kind of thing. That is the skill that needs to be more awesome in order for Grim Reaper to be good. So if your Grim Reaper build, now you stack afflictions on multiple targets, if you were able to hit more than one thing at a time with Reap, it becomes so strong. And we're like, yes, that is a great idea. So now there are people that asked or that recommended things. A lot of people put their names in there and asked for credit. And when we are, let me see, okay, so let's look at, I am thinking, okay, so stretch goals. I'm going to turn this off real quick. This is actually not the correct file. So I have the correct file right here in the corner, and I'm not going to show you guys yet. Let me switch the camera, make sure I don't want to spoil all this stuff for you, okay? But I do want you guys to see, all right, so the types of talents that we want. Okay. All right. I'm looking. I'm going to find one that we can use. Okay. So let me now share the screen and look at one that we have seen before. We have all of these talents are created, and I want to show you Chain Lightning. So Chain Lightning is a level 3 talent for that is used by Christine, where you target an angel, demon, or saint in range. Then you select a new target, but you're going to calculate, so within 3 range, you're going to calculate range from the current, that new target. And you're going to repeat it until a certain number of targets have been selected, or until no new targets can be selected, and then deal each targeted demon huge damage. So what this is going to do is it's going to say, all right, I'm going to target this demon. Then I'm going to move to the angel, and then through the angel, through the saint, to the next demon, to the next demon, to the next demon, to the next saint, to the next demon, whatever. And your lightning is going to bounce between all of those targets. So your angels and saints are kind of conducting the electricity, and the demons are the only ones taking damage. This was such a cool skill, such a fun skill to play with. And Jonathan Bowman, one of the fans of Deliverance, is going to get permanent credit for his for basically destroying an entire battlefield worth of demons using this twice. It was an incredible experience. And then I cut the talent from the base game, and he was sad. So we're adding it back. Now we're actually giving credit to Jonathan right here, because he was really the inspiration behind this Chain Lightning. Now I'll give you guys one more example. This is the Intercessor. So we've got our Intercessor, low resolution, just for sake of my computer. This credit for this talent is given to PT Y'all. He is or P-Tile maybe is how you would say it, but he's one of our Discord users that tests a lot, but he suggested this talent. And when using Consecrate, which is the talent for the Intercessor, or it's the free action for the Intercessor that gives you a shield or a courage, when using Consecrate, you can now test. And on success, you can either gain, an additional shield or an additional courage. So that means you might be able to gain 2 shield, or a shield and a courage, or 2 courage when using the Intercessor. And it just makes you stronger and enables so many more builds or so much more defense. And it's a very needed talent for the Intercessor. So we're giving credit where credit's due. And so this is how we're showing appreciation for every single person that ended up suggesting a talent that we use. You're going to get a permanent note of appreciation that is written on the card that, everybody can, will see. Everybody, for the, that prints the game will see. All right. So this video has probably gone on quite long. I'm not exactly sure how long, but I just want to say I appreciate you guys. I as a last kind of note, I heard a conversation from the developer of World of Warcraft for, I want to say, like the last 20 years. The guy that worked on this thing, Ian Hazakostas. He gave a lecture about meeting players where they are. After you release a game, and it's an hour lecture that, the short version is, sometimes you need to listen to your players. And Blizzard Entertainment with World of Warcraft was kind of known for a very long time as like doing things that the players weren't asking for. And that was kind of something that he explained met the developers' vision for their product, but the players that had played the game for years and years, they changed, but the developers never changed. Like the vision never changed. And so the players were looking for things based on their vision for the game that the developers didn't understand. And he said that the conclusion was that, if players have changed, then the developers need to change with them. And I have seen so much, we'll call it change in the community. Now that we have a game that's released, that's live, that everybody is playing. I mean, some of you have played it hundreds of times. Like Board Game Arena, we've got people logging 200 games on Board Game Arena of Deliverance so far, and which is just an incredible thing. And so I would say this game is one of those that has a community that cares about it, that is really looking forward to what it does in the future and that kind of thing. And I take very seriously what you guys think about this product, where you guys think it needs to go and that kind of thing. Originally, and one of the chief examples I have is that originally I thought the game was going to be about the skirmish mode of play, where we would play over and over again, and the campaign would be there for people that wanted to play. But it turns out that over 2/3 of you, like 70% of the people that play Deliverance, their favorite mode of play is the campaign. It's like, wow, and it was way bigger than I thought. And it almost, to me, felt like the campaign was an afterthought. It's just that we had designed the skirmish mode so well that the campaign, it was just like, let's give you really cool experiences in skirmish that with the lieutenant concept, and it ended up taking off like fire for the game. And so we came up with scenarios to feed you guys the content that you really wanted, and then we came up with a more dynamic campaign with more missions and whatnot in this next game, because a lot of you guys really love the campaign. We found that the vast majority of our players that had the game played at least 6 missions in the campaign. That is a lot of time. I mean, for a game to be released, for you to play it 6 times, it is you've probably played it more than many of the games on your shelf. And for the majority of our players that received the game to actually have played through that many missions is fantastic. And it just shows the game is, this is excellent. So this campaign, we are really leveling it up. And this is our attempt to listen to you and to give you what you want. And another thing that I really love about what Ian Hazakostas had to say about World of Warcraft was they're not designing for like infinite, developer, I don't know, like they're not designing systems that are good forever. They're designing systems that are good for like right now. And they feel like there are certain systems, for example, let's say, I can't design, if I come out with 10 expansions, I can't come up with 10 level ones, 10 level twos, and 10 level threes for all the angels in the base game, like releasing one new talent set for all those guys per level. But, we'll find a way to make sure that these base game angels can still, you know, are still as good and as fun to play as the newest angels we release. But that's really a problem for future us to handle, not a problem for today. The challenge for today is finishing Council of the Fallen and planning the next project that we're releasing, next two projects actually. But future Andrew is going to be able to address the concerns of the community, and future Andrew is smart. Future Andrew and the Deliverance team, the future Deliverance team, is capable. We're going to allow them, the future versions of us, to solve the problems that arise or the desires of the community. And so, it's actually a really cathartic just experience to relieve all of the pressure that I've been under, to make sure that the game is future proofed forever, that, all of this stuff is backwards compatible and forwards compatible. And it's like, let's give future Andrew those challenges and design what the community wants today. And so I hope that you guys appreciate this insight into what's going on in my head. I hope you guys will support and continue to support what's going on with Deliverance. There's tariff instability. I didn't really talk about the potential delay, but tariff instability and other things. And we do have a plan to release a free downloadable art pack that you can also donate money to, in essence, the Tariff fund, to help us cover the cost of these tariffs, because it really does impact the amount of product we can make and that kind of thing. And so we wanted to make it a voluntary thing. We didn't want to prevent people that really wanted this stuff from getting it. But at the same time, we know that so many of you in this community are generous. You are generous humans, and you want to help. And so we want to give you guys value for helping. Now, one other thing I want to mention while I'm here, the last thing on the list is the German language edition of Deliverance is funding on, I believe it's called Spieleoffensive.de. That is Happy Shops, our vendor that we use for European Union distribution and delivering products. They actually have a German crowdfunding site that where the German translation team is elected to launch a crowdfunding campaign to fund the Deliverance translation. So please, if you guys are willing, any amount of money donated on that campaign will go toward the to the German team funding the actual translation work. And they're almost done, but they really want to make more games that they can that they can sell in Germany. It's a really big deal. If you guys are listening to this and able to help, I'll make sure to link to that as well in the show notes below on this video. But please do consider supporting them. So even $10 or $20 goes a super long way toward what their goals are. The more backers on that campaign, the better. And I know it kind of came quickly. I'm definitely going to send an email about it to the fans, separate from this. But if you are listening to this and you're willing to donate, please consider donating to the German language Deliverance campaign on Spieleoffensive.de. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I am going to head out. Catch you around next time. We'll talk soon.